said, I'm going to quote you, Luka has been horrible this entire postseason. What do you have to say now after last night's performance?
Well, I got to apologize, Kev, but he has been horrible to Luka expectations.
Shortest odds in the NFL. The Lions went 3-13-1 during that Jared Goff first season in Detroit, with Goff missing 3 of those games due to injuries. He settled in over the last 2 seasons, ranking top 4 in the NFL in passing yards, touchdowns, touchdown to INT ratio, and first down rate. He spoke earlier today.
This city just means so much to me now and will hold a special place in my heart forever, that there isn't like any external, as much external motivators as there is internal of, I just want to win for them, and I want to win for these fans, and I want them to be able to experience the success that we've had this past year and a half or whatever it is, and just continue to do that.
2-time Super Bowl champ Damien Woody is with us now. And last month when we were part of the draft, you could feel that entire city of Detroit. They love Jared Goff. They love this team. So close a year ago to get to the Super Bowl. What steps do they have to take to kind of get there for the first time in franchise history, Damien?
Yeah, Kev, you got to look at the defensive side of the football. And when you look at this defense, particularly the secondary, they gave up the 3rd most explosive plays, meaning 20-yard pass plays or more in the National Football League. And you saw the Detroit Lions really attack the secondary, particularly the cornerbacks. Obviously, they drafted 2 corners in the first 2 rounds, Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw Jr., to really help fortify that secondary. If you prevent the explosive plays, that's going to go a long way toward helping this Lions team hopefully get over the hump and reach that.
Kevin Blackstone, David Ennis Jr., Mina Kimes, pendulumically speaking, an NBA second round for the ages. What's real? What's still left to be decided? Also 20 points, 3 assists, 10 turnovers, the debut of Caitlin Clark. And happy NFL schedule day. We're tracking the schedule for tonight's reveal. Let's go around the horn. Look at that thing. Just show me where the burgundy and gold is.
Getting a creaser looking at that.
That was the condensed view, by the way. That's what it said on the spreadsheet. Is there any other kind? So the pregame MVP ceremony, and then 40, 13, 7, and 0 turnovers for Jokic.
I mean, I had open lane, just, I'm a freak of nature, and why not to show my athleticism?
I want to talk about the defense on Jokic. Whether you see it as a Gobert failure, he's the defensive player of the year, and he's allowing that 40, 13, and 7, or a Wolves game plan failure in general, or just the mark of inevitability. You're playing against a 3-time MVP. David Dennis Jr., around the horn to you, and can the Wolves come back from it?
This is Nikola Jokic reminding us that sometimes you got to pop out and show people, and that's exactly what he did. Rudy Gobert has actually been pretty good defensively against him for the first part of this series, was holding him to 40% shooting when he was the primary defender. But last night, Jokic put together 70 points, either scored or assisted on, with no turnovers. That has never happened in the playoffs since they've started recording turnovers. And when Gobert was his primary defender, he was 8 for 9. He eviscerated him and topped that off with a third quarter that was maybe the best quarter we've seen from Jokic. Now, can the Timberwolves come back from this? Depends on how you look at it. They have some answers here, and it all is on the shoulders of Karl Anthony Towns. When he is the primary Jokic defender and Gobert is on the baseline, the Nuggets are 5 for 18 defensively, and offensively, they're doubling Anthony Edwards more than they have all series, which makes him the primary offensive person. So if he steps up, then they have a shot here. The problem is it's Karl Anthony Towns having to step up and be poised and aggressive, and we have not seen that so far in his career in the playoffs, so I don't have faith in him to do that.
Mina, on the micro of last night, Jokic, the game he had, and where the defense against him factors in.
Yeah, you know what's so wild? He was, 8 for 9 against Gobert, and yet I don't think Rudy Gobert played a bad game. Anthony Edwards afterwards said defense wasn't actually a weakness. Sometimes the MVP just MVPs. I'm paraphrasing, but he's absolutely right. This was much more about Jokic solving the T-Wolves defense like he was solving a Rubik's Cube, as he so often does. He is simply the best player in the NBA, and Gobert couldn't do anything about it. I thought he was pretty good. As far as whether the Wolves can come back in this one, I think it's going to have a lot to do with Mike Conley's availability. You saw in this game how much they need him as a facilitator. The offense looked really disjointed without him. You don't want Karl Anthony Towns as a ball handler as much as he was. That, to me, will be the biggest factor going forward.
Pablo Torre.
Yeah, and the Wolves have been trying different things. They have been making adjustments. This adjustment was, hey, we're going to play this guy straight up with the Defensive Player of the Year. We're going to stay back and let, Jokic be the source of our problems. It turns out that Nikola Jokic is so creative as a player, having the greatest quarter of his career, by the way, that third quarter, Tony. 3 MVPs in 4 years. The best quarter of his life was the third quarter. You can't do anything about that. And I'm not here to make excuses for Rudy Gobert. I'm just here to say that he's done that to Anthony Davis, to Bam Adebayo. He would have done it to everybody. And so the Nuggets, of course, have adjustments for those adjustments. Now, what do you do if you're the Wolves? You hope that Anthony Edwards actually does more than a little Michael Jordan karaoke, maybe give us 50 next time. And yeah, Karl Anthony Towns, hey, could you also do a little bit of Scottie Pippen? Could you just have these guys play out of their minds to counter the fact that they have puzzle solvers and solutions in every possible way on the other side of this?
And now, Professor Kevin Blackiston, I'm so happy to see you here today, Kevin, because the last time we saw you, you said this series was over. And the pendulum has swung so wildly in this entire playoffs. But, of course, with the Nuggets here on the micro, is Minnesota playing Jokic the best they can, the right way? Is there any move?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say my prediction the other week was not incorrect. It's just that the game has turned out to go the other way because the Denver Nuggets are that much better, and I underestimated just how good the Joker is on offense because he is absolutely marvelous. And you can see that he took it personally when they put the Defensive Player of the Year on him just to go at him. There's nothing else the Wolves can do defensively with that player. I mean, he's now shooting about 60% from the field. He's averaging about 10 assists, and this is the last 3 games over the wins. I don't know what he is. It's like plus 18 now on the plus minus, where before in the first 2 games he was negative. He's doing everything just marvelously. Now, what can the Wolves do? They can't have Anthony Edwards go 5 for 15. I mean, he said it a couple games ago when he had an off game, he said he's got to bring the energy. He's got to. But you can look at him and see he's been dragging that team like a piano at some point, and he's just tired. So they need him to be back to scoring 30 points a game. They can't do it with what he's doing.
Dragging that team like a piano. All right. Spoken like a true jazz man. We've been Horn. We'll move on. Knicks 121. Pacers 91. The pendulum swings again. A beatdown. And now a question. Why not pendulum swing it this way? Have the minutes caught up to the Pacers? Plot twist. Tyrese Halliburton has been kind of light on, light off in this series. Brunson's vertical on his jumper. It was being tracked by some when he had the terrible Game 4. Game 5 is back up another 1.5 inches. And then Dante's Inferno, and then 7th Avenue. You have people here who will amputate body parts for Brunson and DiVincenzo and Hart right now. Pablo Torre, how do you make sense of this series takeaway from last night?
Yeah, the most likable team in not more than recent memory, since 1971, I guess, Tony, in New York Knicks history. Happens to be the toughest team that I can recall. And look, I'm going to say some things that make me sound like I'm doing some Tom Thibodeau karaoke. But you have in Jalen Brunson, a guy who will score 40 for you. Yes, he's the one-on-one threat the Knicks need to win these games. But everybody else around this team actually embodies the concept of grit. What does this mean? It means you out-rebound the other team by 24 as a team. What does it mean? It means that you don't give up on the ball ever. It means that you're going to wear your ligaments down to the bone as your coach would like you to do. And they do it. And the crowd loves it. And so it is the perfect marriage of style and substance, even if it feels like the wheels are about to fall off. The Pacers, by contrast, just don't have any of the qualities I mentioned. They seem psychologically non-resilient. They break apart, and the Knicks just feast on the fears that they can sense by the end of these games.
All right, Pablo, a bone to pick. You said the 71 Knicks. I'll give you that. Maybe this is the most likable 2094. 71 wasn't the team that won the finals. It's 70 and 73. The king of Kips Bay better know his history. Let's go to Mina Kimes here. Takeaway from last night.
We already knew Jalen Brunson was the best player in the series. That's no surprise. What was surprising, although some of the performance in the regular season should have foreshadowed this, was the impact that going ultra small with Miles McBride in the lineup would have on Brunson, who was very aggressively doubled all game by Indiana. But the games they were able to run with McBride, the screening opened up space for Brunson to go to work, in addition to, of course, the rebounding that we saw from Josh Hart and Hartenstein. These Knicks, to me, look like the better team. And it would be so alarming, too, from Indiana's perspective, is that they went ultra small. They shot poorly from 3, the Knicks, and they still won. That does not bode well for Indiana.
David Dennis Jr., takeaway from last night?
The takeaway is that we have two teams that are in their own little bubble of unpredictability. What you have here is a Knicks team that is hurt, which means they can't really string a couple of great games together. And you have a Pacers team that's young, inexperienced, does not play defense, and they can't string together a couple of great games. So you'll have games like you have couple games ago where the Pacers look like they're going to blow the Knicks out for the rest of the series, and a game like last night where the Knicks look like they're going to blow the Pacers out. So, it's hard to really sort of see where it's going forward, but I do think the Pacers can win Game 6, and it's all about Halliburton. Only 9 shots. That team is 0 for 3 when he doesn't get up 10 baskets.
After the talk he was talking in Game 4. I hear you there on Halliburton, Blackistone after the horn.
Yeah, and the Pacers haven't lost at home, so that bodes well from as well. But Tyrese Halliburton has got to show up. He's got to be consistent. He can't disappear as he has in parts of this series. And, of course, the Knicks are just deeper. I mean, whoever they tap on the shoulder seems to respond. And Hartenstein on the offensive
Knicks are deeper,
glasses, absolutely.
Deeper for a team that is playing 7 players. And, the minutes has become such a joke for all of us on the show because we negging Frank Isola a little bit, but that was 43 minutes yesterday for Jalen Brunson in a game that was 30 points. I mean, maybe that could have been take off the last 6 to 8 minutes. Live to fight another day. We've been Horn. One more story here. Happy NFL schedule day. Let's go to the big board. Yes! All right. So that's a lot to take in. I recognize that. But I have a question here because now with the release today that Netflix will be getting 2 Christmas Day games, and ESPN Plus is getting a game this year, and Peacock and Amazon Prime and NFL Network like years past, YouTube TV with the Sunday Ticket you know about already. NFL fans will need more than just the traditionals to watch games, every game this year. And that is now seeing it play out in the schedule. Multiple KC games will be streaming only this season. Mina Kimes, how do you consider that all? Net positive, net negative, no real net effect either way?
Yeah, from the business perspective, I'm not surprised. I don't think it's anything to be concerned about, given the fact that the Dolphins-Packers game streamable on Christmas last year got like 26 million.
Of course. I'm not worried about the business perspective. I believe there's money.
Yeah,
I mean the fan perspective.
Well, yeah, I think the fan perspective is aligned with the business perspective in that it's clear that fans will stream these games. And we can joke about our parents asking us for passwords or how to use it. I don't know. I borrow my parents' password all the time. So I think that this is simply the way society is going in terms of how we consume media. My concern, Tony, is more so from the players. As we do more games on different days during the week and spread them out, I'm less worried about oversaturating the audience and more about what does this mean for player health, because it does create different issues when you play more games in different countries on different days.
Pablo Torre, to you on the reaction a lot of fans had right here is like,
what about Saquon Barkley? We gonna get all of you, Saquon. 3-year deal with the Eagles this offseason. Barkley, the 4th most rushing yards in G-Men history, now guaranteed to face his former mates at least twice per. The Texans continue to build around C.J. Stroud, acquiring wide receiver Stephon Diggs in a trade with the Bills. Diggs, well, he's not going to have to wait long to see Josh Allen and his former team in Houston this season. What about Russ? Leaving the Broncos with the most dead money for a contract in NFL history. Here you go. Wilson had an 11-19 record over 2 seasons and will now return to Denver as a member of the Steelers. And what about down in Atlanta? They gave out the biggest deal this offseason, signing Kirk Cousins to a 4-year deal worth 180 M's. Cousins will face his former team, the Vikings, a franchise he ranks top 3 in passing yards and touchdowns. Down Orlovsky, before we started, said, man, we're going to bust him up. He wasn't talking about this schedule. We were talking about the dividing lines here on the desk. We'll get to that.
In the octagon.
Randy.
Oh, in an octagon now?
Randy, don't worry about a damn thing.
I'm not worried.
Right, don't worry about it.
I'm just going to hide.
I get you huffing and puffing about 90
in the octagon? Okay. All right, we'll keep it clean here, but let's talk about the revenge. Dan, what revenge game just listed are you looking forward to most?
I think Saquon wants to get after the Giants like you want to get after hair dye. I think
that hurts, man, I'm right here. Yeah. We're supposed to be a team.
Saquon was a great Giant. Maybe not what the expectation was, getting drafted as early as he was, but he was never given the necessary help as an offensive weapon when it comes to the offensive line and blocking. Now he goes to one of the best offensive lines, an organization that has become a foundational piece in offensive line run blocking. And I think that the opportunity to go and prove in a way, hey, if you had given me this type of offensive line and this type of blocking in New York, I'd still be a Giant and we would be in a better situation. And I think you're going to have that mindset with a guy that is ultra competitive to go and prove you should have kept me and made me the focal point of your offense.
Yeah, I'm going Baltimore, Kansas City, bro. And listen, I still haven't let go the way that they didn't run the football in the AFC Championship. But more importantly, we know Lamar Jackson went on to win the MVP of the league, but Patrick Mahomes came into your building, and he was the guy that everybody talked about when they left. And then the other thing, too, is both of these teams are in different arenas now. The Baltimore Ravens signed Derrick Henry because I'm thinking that the emphasis needs to be on a physical run game, and maybe looking at Derrick Henry back there reminds the offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, that we can run the football on pretty much anybody we choose to. And when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens, and you think about Kansas City, who's going to be the team? Like, we got to get that question answered. We saw Cincinnati go. We know Joe Burrow has been injured.
You mean to overtake Kansas City?
To at least say this is a matchup between these two teams. Somebody else has to come to the forefront. Yeah. We came off of a season talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. This is the worst iteration of we've seen them have offensively, and they went into Baltimore and took the AFC Championship away from them.
How many streaming services do I need to get now? How much is this going to cost me?
Yeah, the answer to all your questions is money, Tony. As a wise man once said, the fan perspective on this should be, I was promised in the age of streaming that I would pay less for the stuff I want the most. And now all of us collectively find ourselves paying for things that we forget we're paying for because we're paying for so many things. And so are we going to sort of develop new habits because, of course, the NFL is now dispersed across the 4 major broadcast networks and every conceivable streaming service? Yes. Is that a good thing for fans? No. Will we watch it, though? Yes. And that is why these deals are being made. Nothing is more inelastic than demand for the NFL, and the NFL knows it.
Kevin Blackistone, you seem to be shaking your head no.
Well, no, I'm just saying it. I'm just thinking, football is the most addictive sport on our menu. We're going to watch it no matter what, and I think people will make that adjustment, and we're already making those adjustments in the rest of our lives and how we watch other things. I mean, I have several streaming services just to watch specific sports, so this is just something people are going to do.
Yeah, we're in a post-ratings era. It doesn't matter. NFL doesn't care how many people tune in. They've already got the money on the front end from these streaming services, and they do not care how inconvenient it is for us, because the NFL has never showed any care for how inconvenient anything they do is for any of the fans that they have.
But have you ever been in a house that didn't have the streaming service for the game in the moment, and you're like, wait, what? I can't watch this game tonight? You have. We all have been in that. We all don't have Mina's parents giving us the sign-ons.
I would like it, though. Sun Min, share your login.
By yourself, next. Learn from it, move on was part of Caitlin Clark's review of her WNBA debut. The league record for most turnovers in a debut. Not what Clark or the Fever wanted or what yesterday's panel predicted. 10 turnovers. The 20 points came on 5 of 15 shooting. 3 assists came after suffocating defense from Dejanay Carrington. Physical play from one of the league's best Ds. Also, Alyssa Thomas said, you want to talk MVP odds? Boom, triple-double. Suns roll the Fever. After months of debate and wonder, Swoops and Taurasi, the opening arguments for how the transition will go have been cast. Mina, what you buy, what you sell?
I am buying that this was a really bad matchup for Caitlin Clark, because as you said, the Sun have an incredible defense, second in the WNBA in defensive rating last year, behind only the champion Aces. Carrington was fantastic. Alyssa Thomas has been all defense 5 times, or first or second team. So again, this was very challenging for her. It's not entirely surprising that she struggled early on, and I will say I thought she looked more comfortable as the game went on. But there is a reason why all these WNBA players have been saying, hey, welcome to the league, Rook. It's going to be a lot more physical from here on out.
David Dennis Jr.
I'm buying that this is what we're going to see from Caitlin Clark, at least as she gets adjusted to the WNBA and these wing defenders. We saw that last night, but there's still Sykes with the Mystics, Ariel Atkins, Natasha Cloud. Like, she's going to face these great defenders as she goes along, and that frustration is going to be there. But what was great about last night was Aaliyah Boston talking her down, going into halftime, being that mentor, being that, figure for her. I think that their chemistry is going to take this team where it's going to go going forward. But it's going to take her a little while.
I saw
to
that
figure this
exchange
out.
too with Boston, and Boston had a tough game herself. 4 points, 6 rebounds, 4 turnovers. But they had that first possession, right? Where you're like, oh, here it is. You can see it, the first bucket of the season. Kevin Blackistone, your review of the debut.
Well, I thought it was a good debut in the sense that
even with 10
she did
turnovers.
Score. Well, I'm going to say, in the sense that she did score. That's what people think of her as a scorer. She hit a few shots. That was okay. But she's going to get better. As the only panelist here who was at Michael Jordan's first game when he scored 16 points, had 6 assists, about 7 rebounds, something like that, it's all been forgotten. And so this game, those 10 turnovers that you mentioned, will be forgotten because she will begin to shine as the season goes on. And she
Okay, but I'm asking you today. I'm not saying you need to make a ruling for all eternity. Pablo Torre on your review of yesterday's debut.
Yeah, it's worth remembering that the Indiana Fever got to draft Caitlin Clark because they were the worst team in the league. And so this was a bad team against a very good one. Alyssa Thomas, by the way, the career leader in triple doubles. Shout out to her. But yeah, there's going to be, speaking of Michael Jordan, some Jordan rules style defense to Caitlin Clark. Because of course the story is a league asserting itself in the face of somebody who has been hyped to the point of unrealistic expectations, while also being the most exciting player I can remember watching in college basketball on the women's side. So it's going to get better from here, but it's going to be bad for a long time, Toby.
KB, I cut
That's
you
the way
off.
it works
I'll let
when you're
you
on a
come back
terrible
in
team.
here for your overall review of the rest of eternity here for Caitlin Clark as a player.
No, I think she'll be fine. I mean, she's the best long-distance shooter we've seen in women's basketball, period, and she will find her stroke in the WNBA.
Next 2 games against the New York Liberty. The finalists last year, though, they don't actually play defense like we saw Connecticut do, or maybe the Aces, as Mina said earlier. So that's remaining on the week. Our week ends right now because we got a PGA championship in our place. So I'll say have a great weekend to Mina Kimes and Kevin Blackistone. And showdown next for David Dennis Jr. and Pablo Torre. David Dennis Jr., Pablo Estoril, good luck in showdown. Looking for the bigger win in the Stanley Cup playoffs last night. Bruins staving off elimination on the road against Florida, or the Oilers tying the series up with Vancouver with that late third period goal at home. David Dennis Jr.?
It's simple math. There's the team that has tied up the series as opposed to a team that's trying to come back from a 3-1 deficit. And that's the Oilers, who played their best game of the series so far behind Picard, protecting the goal. And Picard's dramatic goal at the end of that game.
Pablo?
It's the Bruins because Jeremy Swayman, their goaltender, had predicted that this whole series would go back to Boston. They were up 2-1, 8 seconds left. Reinhart from right in front, shoots.
I can't believe that wasn't the equalizer. 8 seconds to go. That's how you get a point, Pablo Torre. Showdown 2, game 5s tonight. Pivotal in the NBA. Mavs Thunder. That series tied 2-2. Celtics Cavs. Boston can close it out. Pablo, what's the number one thing you're most sure of tonight?
Yeah, I'm keeping a big picture. I'm confident the Celtics are winning this game. You're telling me the Cavs don't have Donovan Mitchell again? I am sorry. It's been nice to see like LeBron sitting courtside at these games. Cool. Not going to be able to watch much for long in Cleveland. I think the Celtics are taking this.
Junior?
I'm sure that OKC Thunder are going to stick to their defensive game plan and just making sure that P.J. Washington is the guy to make the shots. He shot 15 more shots than Kyrie Irving in the last 2 games. It didn't work in Game 3. It worked in Game 4. They're going to keep that game plan going.
OKC's defense is what you're most sure of. Okay. I'd like to see it. Let's give a point to David Dennis Jr. We're split going into Showdown 3. Here it is. 4th inning last night. Astros, Ronel Blanco was ejected after a substance check on his glove. So this happens in the game, but that it happened to an Astro. Let me look at your eyes. Any eyebrows raised here, David Dennis Jr.?
There are 3 things you probably shouldn't do. You probably shouldn't allegedly cheat. You probably shouldn't allegedly cheat for the Astros. And you probably shouldn't allegedly cheat with something that the umpire says is the stickiest substance he's ever seen on a glove. Those are bad metrics.
Pablo?
Yeah, it's the Astros, so of course my eyebrows are both Dwayne Johnson height when I come to this story. But also, Tony, I think the fact that they found some powder in the glove afterwards, indicating that it's rosin, indicating that maybe his 2.0-something ERA to start the season may in fact be because of the stickiest stuff that was.
And he had the no-hitter to start the year. You're putting it all into question. How are you, Pablo Torre?
A little sticky. Too sticky.
David Dennis Jr. is getting the face.
Pardon me, I've been a little emotional today. Got dad tears going down. My son has graduated from 5th grade today. Shout out to you. But most important, not just as important as that, I want to shout out the teachers who got him there. I want to shout out his teacher, Miss Brown Benton, Miss Lockhart, Dr. McNeely, all the people who helped him, Miss Bunkley, who helped him get to where he is. The teachers are the people who pour their hearts and souls into these kids. All of those students were so happy. Their parents were so proud of them. Shout out to the teachers and shout out to the teachers.
Oh, what a great FaceTime, and we love our teachers. And for a present, Uncle Tony is going to give you Mina.
You get us. No gaps in the NFL schedule, which is out 8 p.m. Eastern time tonight. Congratulations. You're going to need more channels. Games are everywhere, both home and abroad.
You know, PTI's been on one channel for more than 20 years. Those guys are going to be back with us to tell us which team they trust the most to force a Game 7. And could the Celtics end more than just the season for the Cavs? We are almost there, though. As Gary said, almost time for the NFL schedule release. Airing tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time over on ESPN2. For now, let's look at the international games. International games announced earlier today, Week 5. Jets, Vikings in London, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, with Minnesota serving as the host. A familiar foe for Aaron Rodgers. This will be his 30th game against the Vikings, his most against any opponent. Following week featuring the Jags and the Bears, again at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London. Bears will make their 4th trip to foggy London town, first since 2019. They'll serve as the host, the visiting Jaguars, how they say it over there. And the Jags will stay in London for Week 7, but move to Wembley to host the Patriots. Jacksonville made history last season, playing back-to-back games overseas. They'll run it back again this season. We'll see how Patriots fare in London historically. Well, Week 10, Panthers heading to Germany for the franchise's 2nd international game as they host against the Giants. You let it sink in. Slow burn. Allianz Arena, home of
18-game schedule with the idea, I think, that there could be potentially one international game for each team in time, eventually at some point in time. But this is where the added revenue is going to be. And this is a Disney company, and so I will refer to the line that was said in Toy Story, to infinity and beyond. And that's how the NFL owners think about these international games, to infinity and beyond.
We can catch more of Adam Schefter not too far beyond, just on ESPN2, 8 p.m. Eastern for the full schedule release. Shefty, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, this just in, 2 NFL games will air on Netflix this season on Christmas Day as part of a new deal. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs will face the Steelers and reigning MVP Lamar Jackson, Netflix and Steel. And then the Ravens will take on C.J. Stroud, Stephon Diggs, Gary, and the Texans. The first games on Netflix represent a rare regular season game on a Wednesday. More on the schedule release ahead on SportsCenter. Dan Orlovsky and Marcus Spears standing by with their most anticipated matchups of stars set to face off against their former team.
We have scheduled basketball tonight. Game 5 between the Mavericks and the Thunder tipping off in OKC. It's a best-of-3 series now. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 3 straight playoff games going for 35-5, one shy of the Brody in 2017 for the longest streak in the franchise's history. And he's done it at both ends, adding 4 steals and 9 blocks during this stretch. On the other side, P.J. Washington has played some of the best hoops in his career in this series, leading the Mavs in scoring in each of the last 3 games after leading them in just one of the 29 games he played with Dallas during the regular season. As for Luka and Kyrie, the duo combining for 27 points in the Game 4 loss, their fewest in 77 games as teammates. Kyrie Irving has scored at single digits twice in this series after doing so just twice in his playoff career entering this series. Something's got to give as our NBA reporter Tim McMahon is on the scene in OKC joining us now. Tim, fantastic to see you. Kyrie, 2 games with less than 10 points in this series, Game 4 being one of them when he just had 9 points. What are the Mavs saying about how they can get him going tonight?
Well, Kyrie gives the Thunder credit. They've been loading up against him and Luka Doncic. He said every time he's coming off the screen, he's seeing a crowd. He's seeing 3 defenders in front of the ball. And he emphasized he's making the right plays. He doesn't want to necessarily force things, but he does think there are things he can do along with Luka Doncic, 2-man game type of things. Maybe they can get out and transition, ways that they can create easier opportunities for each other, because obviously with those 2 combined for only 37 points per game.
Yeah, Baltimore should have grounded and pounded again. Bring it back to the octagon, just because you wanted to bring private stuff to the public.
Yeah,
and I was.
Be a long night for you, bro.
I was just trying to. I'd be a long night, short fight though.
Yeah.
Long night, short fight.
Yeah.
Kansas City and Baltimore,
no
2
lies.
teams with the shortest odds to win the AFC, according to ESPN Bet. Might not be easy for the Ravens though, or really any team in the AFC North. They own each of the 3 toughest schedules next season, based on last year's records. That's partly because they play each other twice. Yep. But then you have the Bengals all the way down at 17th there, the benefit of a 4th place schedule. So, Dan, the question comes to you. When you look at the AFC North as a whole, you see those rankings schedule-wise. Which of those teams you feel is best positioned to weather the storm of their upcoming schedule?
I'm going to take the Bengals. And respectfully, can we do the strength of schedule conversation and just strictly around the quarterbacks? It's last year's teams. They're totally different this year. So it's really about what quarterbacks you have to play. The Bengals have, at worst, the guy that's the 2nd best in the NFL. And it's weird because the Bengals have a little bit, almost it feels, been forgotten. They haven't been talked about because of the injuries and multiple people on their football team, specifically Joe Burrow last year. We're talking about a quarterback that's coming back, finally has an offseason a little bit where he can play a little bit, and now he's got to stay healthy. I completely agree with that. Yeah. T. Higgins, motivated to go get a new contract. Jamar Chase, motivated to go get paid. I love their draft pick out of Alabama, Jermaine Burton. And as much as I love Tyler Boyd, who used to play that slot role, I think he's going to be great. They signed Mike Gesicki down in the red zone. I just think this Bengals offense, as good as it's always been, is going to be just as good, if not a tick better.
Yeah, I'm going Baltimore, man, and I'm not going to remove what I saw last year from this team. And I know some changes have been made. And I'm in agreement with you about Joe Burrow because he's the only one we've seen do it against Patrick Mahomes and be able to go a step further. But I'm not going to act like Lamar Jackson doesn't equalize everything, even when you are working from a deficit. I think the addition of Derrick Henry, though, is going to be crazier. Gus Edwards was a big back. Sure. Gus Edwards had a really good year. Derrick Henry is a different animal. We're talking about a Hall of Fame running back that you add to a backfield. And now with an offense that has spread everybody out, that's created more room for the run game. And also with Lamar Jackson taking a step, I believe, last year in pushing the ball downfield with Zay Flowers and those wide receivers. And then, too, man, like, the great thing about this division is you got Mike Tomlin, who's the model of consistency. You got Harbaugh, who's been a model of consistency. These teams are playoff
Cleveland
teams.
could have the best roster in the division.
Don't know what the quarterback situation going to be. So that's the issue with them. But I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens right now because they seem to be the team that is going to show you consistency more so than everybody else. And to your point with Cincinnati, it's just because of injuries with Joe Burrow.
Yeah, he's got to stay healthy. It's a fair question mark.
All right, Ravens a slight favorite to win the division according to ESPN Bet, just like us, minus 220. If it's a 2-on-2.
Yeah, bet the house.
In the octagon.
Oh, we're going to keep him mobile.
Bet the house.
Swagoo.
Buddy, he's going to be huffing and puffing.
Back with more. A little bit later in the show.